Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to us. Otherwise, we think you're just out there listening. We want to welcome you to the show. Michael, we already have a caller, but let's welcome you in first. Hi.
Awesome. Thank you, sweetie. It's a delight to be here, a delight to be sharing the tools of forgiveness with every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth. And we are so blessed to have this radio show to be able to make what we're learning and teaching available to anyone who has an interest. And our commitment is to make it freely available planet-wide. And one of our goals is to actually put an end to war, to create a space where it's safe for human life to actually show up on the earth and for us to function as human beings. When we talk about human life showing up, when we talk about functioning as human beings, we have an easy experiential definition of human life. Hold a newborn child, you know exactly what a human life is. Now, if you're not functioning as that human life, then recognize that someone's brainwashed you with some form of hostility or fear, something that never belonged in your humanness, and engage in the process of getting rid of what never belonged. What never belonged is any form of hostility or fear. When we bought into the game of hostility or fear, we bought into a self-destructive game. What we're looking to do is to change that game. And we change that game by forgiving. Now, lest you get caught in the Greek insanity of forgiveness, that is, we've been told the problem is all out there, it's all their fault, all you have to do is forgive them, then everything will be okay. And you'll notice that when you forgive them, and of course you can't forgive them, stop forgiving them, the word forgive does not mean I let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, and I get better when I do that. The word forgive is the tool from the ancient Aramaic with which you go inside yourself and remove the source of your pain, remove the hostility and fear that you're blaming others for. So that's what we're here to do. We got a caller. Let's invite our caller in. Jeanie?
I believe that it is Julio, 786. You're on the air.
It is Julio calling from Miami Beach, and
we're
how are you, Michael?
Blessed and highly favored. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited and looking forward to hearing what's happening for you.
Yeah. I had a great meeting with my family the other day, but first of all, we're blessed that the storm that was headed our way this weekend seems to have left the area. We're still experiencing a lot of rain, but it's all good down here in South Florida.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Michael, I want to thank everybody for their support and their prayers. I received a lot of emails and text messages the other day, last Thursday, while I was going through this experience of meeting with my family, and it was a great outcome, that we experienced from this meeting. There was just so much to say on my part. It was really all about me coming forth and disclosing a lot of things that I had never told my family before about me, and explaining to them why the hostility and the pain that that I've been living from so many years, and I got to do a nice list of all the things that I wanted to cover and move right through them. The meeting lasted an hour and a half, and it was amazing. It was emotional at times, but it was so healing. My therapist, I had instructed and to keep me breathing correctly and all that while I was doing this. And he, at the beginning, he did interrupt a few times to get me, get me back on track. But my thoughts were complete, and they understood everything that I was telling them, and it was an amazing experience. You're gonna like this, but my dad was he had his guard up when we got there. He was expecting some confrontation, some accusatory kind of a meeting. And I had assured him that was not going to be the case, and but he had forgotten, so he was a little bit tense coming in. And then, he pretty much listened to everything I said, and without much interruption. Sometimes he did. He talked a few things. He said a few things, but at the end, I got to read to him my commitment, the commitment statement in Spanish, and my dad broke down and cried like a little baby when I read him that. And it was such a wonderful experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what willingness, what courage you got, my friend.
I recognize it, Michael. Yes, my willingness had a lot to do with it, but they also were willing to come and be present, and I found out that my family loves me very much, and of course I love my family as well. But now, having had this big breakthrough, I can get to live life from another, from another reality here. I don't have to live from this story, and I really want to retire the story now, and just and live the next exciting chapter of my life going forward here.
Very powerful. Well, yeah. I acknowledge you for your courage, and to touch your dad that way, especially after the first interaction you had with him where he actually hit you as a result of you sharing some things, to have him break down and to open that space is just, there's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. You just opened a space for families all over the world.
I believe so. Wow. The next day, I felt like I'd had a knot in my chest for years, and the knot was no longer there. I was breathing, calm and easily. It was a great release that I've been able to feel all throughout the weekend on a physical level. It's just an amazing. I like to invite anybody who has difficult relationships and perhaps are not, living in full integrity with a loved one, to have a similar conversation with their loved one and begin healing their pain.
Definitely opens a different kind of space, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. Well, that's my story.
Are there any other specifics? Are there any other specifics to share from the meeting?
No, Michael. No. I just moved through my story, which a lot of people know, and I don't feel like I need to share all of that. I was just sharing the outcome of just being honest and open with my family, and the results here that I'm seeing right away.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, Michael.
We accept being part of the process and are delighted that you included us and gave this whole community the opportunity to be there with support.
Yeah, everybody is a big part of this. This ball got rolling back at Heartland a few weeks ago when I shared and in front of 30 plus people that were at the intensives and I'm glad that I followed through and did the next thing to leading to my healing here. There's certainly been a huge breakthrough after this meeting.
Fabulous. All right. Well, keep us posted on how it proceeds because there'll be more unfold, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Just the beginning. All right.
Fabulous.
All right. All my best to everybody.
Well,
Bye-bye
again,
now.
we appreciate you including us in the process, letting us know in advance that it was happening, giving this whole community the chance to hold the space. And just, for anybody else who's listening, if you feel like you live in a world where you have no support, I was actually just working with someone this morning who went through, as a 16-year-old child, just some horrendous stuff with nowhere to turn and nowhere for support. And that's what we're here to do, is to give you support for that kind of healing. So nice work, my friend.
Thank you, Michael.
All right,
everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, it touches my heart.
That's awesome. If you'll give me a moment here, my computer has frozen up. Magda is next on, but I can't get to the switchboard to turn her on, so I'm going to have to do some rebooting. So if you'll talk for a minute while I get this turned back around, and then I can get back to the switchboard.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing from Magda in a moment or two when the computer, we're out here in technologically challenged land in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, and our wireless signal is not always what it's meant to be, and so sometimes it leads to challenges. But here we are, bringing forward the ancient Aramaic tools, and, to recognize that when I'm in pain, my pain is a signal that there's something going on inside of me. And if I can stop talking about and blaming everyone else, you'll notice that Julio's expression was, and I shared what was going on for me, rather than, Dad, what you did to me, or Mom, what you did to me, or what happened out there. When we shift into an internal conversation, and of course, Julio's done a lot of practice. He started actually in January with these tools. And I really admire him. When he first came to his first workshop, we were doing a MindShifters and Still Point Breathing workshop that weekend, and then we had an intensive set up. And he said, well, I've done other things, but I don't really continue. It's just doesn't really work. So if I can actually work with these tools, I'll register for the intensive. And a short time later, Julio was on the phone with me. He's like, Michael, I'm doing it. I've got it. And here's a man who, since last January, has taken off. Well, the last number that I heard, and I'm sure it's more than this at this moment, but it was about 3 weeks ago, took 114 pounds off of his body. He really tapped in, used the tools, put the dietary regimen to work, came to an intensive, got in touch with the live food, started to do a lot of fresh and raw live food, gourmet preparation that people learn at the intensives, and then came back and did 17 days this summer, and went back home with a lot of courage and a lot of commitment, and is changing, literally his whole family dynamic. And without going into the whole story, it was a pretty heavy-duty family dynamic. And it's just, when people gather the tools and actually put the tools to work, it's so amazing to see what happens and to hear the stories of how things occur and what takes place. And as people work through the issues that otherwise seem unworkable, that just get swept under the rug in the family system and create trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, when you start lifting the rug and taking things out that are clearly not fun to look at and not fun to deal with, but are the underlying dynamics that make relationships difficult once you've got the tools. And that's what we're here to do. We're here in particular to share the tools. If you're not familiar with the forgiveness conversation that we're talking about, then we invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.org. The old .com site is still there. It's still operating. The .org site just went live last week. Thank you to Daniel and Susan and to Marie-José for their assistance in creating this new website. There's new technology coming online every day that we're learning about, and if you take a look at the site, it's amazing. And now, if you want to start somewhere with the tools, if you go to www.whyagain.org, up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a button that says Start Here. That'll give you an explanation of how to start, what to use the tools for, and how to use them. There are several radio shows where we walk somebody through the main tool of forgiveness. This tool of forgiveness takes time. You have to be willing to spend some time hanging out with it to build the brain cells to make it usable. An important part of the learning curve with using this tool is you have to unlearn the lie that forgiveness is about letting other people off the hook. And it has nothing to do with it. It's about delving inside yourself. And so I think I hear Jeanie in the background. Sweetie, how are we making out?
Yep. Magda, you're on.
Awesome. Young lady, how are you?
I'm fine, getting better every moment. And first of all, I want to say welcome back to both of you to the Ozarks. And secondly, congratulations to Julio. I'm just so excited for what you've done, Julio. And then thirdly, someone invited me to go on a zip line experience.
Oh, yeah, well, we're going to have fun with that.
Yes, and what I realized after we finished our little discussion, and I said I need to think about it, is that it propelled me, it triggered my terror, absolute terror. And
great to have your terror triggered with the whole family there.
Yeah, it's a big reality. So it goes back to when I was 19, and I was going out with a fella who regularly went parachuting and free falling and all of that. And I was so excited to do that. And when I actually got on the outside of the plane and they told me to jump, my excitement turned to absolute terror, and I was expecting that I was going to die. And I actually did jump because I was too embarrassed to do otherwise, because this plane was up in the air with me hanging on the wing. And so I know that there's a lot of history here, and I'm calling to ask. It feels like a big jumble right now to me, and wow, it's bringing tears. I'm triggering my fear and sadness, and so I'm wanting some direction from you, Michael, about where to start with this. What ideas do you have?
Well, the place to start, of course, would be by making sure you pay attention to your breath and keep your breath moving. And of course, all of the above would be, the worksheet to look at that dynamic and where the sadness comes. What was the loss that there's sadness about? And as you talk about that event back when you were 19.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think the loss for me was the incredible joy that I saw on the faces of my boyfriend and the other people who were jumping when I went with them the week before, and I stayed in the plane. I was just an observer, and I saw this incredible joy that they were experiencing as they left the plane, and so that's what I lost, was to have that experience. Yeah, because when I left the plane, I actually the moment I let go, I blacked out, and my instructor pulled my ripcord to open the parachute. And so when I woke up, when I came to, which was probably, 1 second later, I don't know, it seemed like 5 minutes.
Right.
The chute was open and I was floating. I just felt like I was floating, and then I really enjoyed it tremendously until I saw the ground coming up very quickly and forgot totally what I was supposed to do. Those were in the days when the parachutes didn't gently bring you down. You needed to drop and roll and all of that stuff. And so I had a hard landing, shall we say, very hard landing. I guess there was that trauma as well. Yeah.
So there are your worksheets, is to let go of the feelings of loss and the thoughts behind it that there was loss and the terror and trauma. And so that would be a good starting point. And then another place to go might be, and, this is, I think, kind of a neat opportunity in that the people that you hung out with all summer at Heartland are almost all going to be there. Julie will be there, and Mary Lou will be there, Joanne, Jeanie, I, David. So everybody will be there to support you and hold the space. And, of course, you're moving into a much gentler, safer situation. You're hooked to a safety harness, and you're going down a zip line that would carry a tank, So your featherweight body weight is nothing to that zip line. So it's a totally safe experience. And trust. So trust your support team, and let yourself. In fact, as you if you decide to come, as you get hooked up to the zip line, I'd support you imagining being back in that airplane, getting ready to jump, and do things differently. Breathe, stay conscious, let what comes up come up, and let it go. And then another layer of freedom will come in your physiology as you remove that energetic dynamic of grief and loss and terror.
Wow. Well, it's really coming up now. I can feel it just bubbling. Yeah. Okay. Good. Staying conscious. That's very, very good. That clued me in.
Conscious observe.
Because I remember when I first started years later, when I just began playing racquetball, if that ball was coming like directly at me, a well-placed ball by my opponent, I would close my eyes. That was my initial reaction. I would just close my eyes like, okay, I don't want to see this. And it took a while before I was able to get myself to watch it, to watch what was happening and keep my eyes right on that ball and be ready for it. Wow, so staying conscious is has many ramifications here in life.
Huge. And we're in a culture that teaches us and promotes unconsciousness. Here, get some liquid courage. Here's a fifth of scotch. The culture just promotes the whole unconsciousness game. And instead of staying conscious and functioning as a conscious human being, when we go unconscious, we go back to the reactions of the generations. And that's what runs us. So that's a major piece of work you're doing.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Okay, I've got a good start here. And I know that each one of these worksheets will take me even deeper. So
absolutely.
I'm feeling excited now.
And then notice also, like at this moment, I'm suggesting that you choose to trust as you go to the facility where we're doing the zip line. But right now, notice that you've got a whole community of people all over the globe, just like Julio had a community of people supporting him to move the energy out of his body to stay conscious and function as a true human being, as this awesome active presence of love. And keeping that presence of love active in you is where your true intelligence is, where your true capability is. And so you've got a whole community right now, right this minute, that's holding you in their hearts and in the space of support. And we know that energetically, time and space don't exist on the energetic level. That's been proven through physics. And so let yourself breathe and open that support energy. And, there might be some others who are listening that would be going through some of the same, and I hope that they're breathing, and as they do, that they're processing through the same issue. And as individuals and as a community, we process through issue after issue after issue. We open literally an energetic space on the planet for those issues to change, for those things to shift and change. And so you're right on track. That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm ready to begin.
All right. Well, you've got our support.
Let's go. Okay. I'll let you know what happens.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, dear. Bye-bye.
Okay, bless you. Bye-bye. Well, that's a nice one.
Yeah. And we do have two more callers. First one is area code 561. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. Hello?
Hey there. That sounds like Michael.
Yes, it is.
How do you be, sir?
Well,
we are just awesomely blessed.
Before I go into mine, I want to tell Julio that he's an amazing guy and that we love him completely and that we're here if he ever needs us. And, Magda, if you get over your fears, the joy on the other side is amazing. I don't have that problem so much because I've dove over waterfalls and cliff dived and done all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's a little different, but once you get over a fear of something, what's on the other side is golden. And I'll hold a space for you to be able to not just go through that as a healing experience, but to go through it and enjoy the freedom of it. Myself,
Yay.
I'm going through a real hard time. I'm kind of lost in the process. I've been doing worksheets on it like every day and starting to get triggered by doing the worksheets because the damn things aren't working and I'm lying in them and blah 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 blah. I did two of the long forms with Margaret last night. She took the lead on them and I did them out loud with her. It's a hard time. It's affecting me. It's about my youngest daughter, Megan.
It sounds like you're up against a big one.
Yeah, I am again. And she was going to come down here on Thanksgiving, and then her mother would act up every time she was going to ask permission. And so we were trying to work out dates so I could buy her a ticket. And I used to blame her mother, my ex-wife, over it, but they're in their 20s. I mean, December, Megan will be 21. So right. I learned that I can't blame their mother for anything, really, because it's their choice. We all have our own choices. So I was trying, I had wrote to her, I haven't heard from her in a while. She's been avoiding me. So I wrote some very kind and responsible messages to her over the last 2-3 weeks. And like 2 days ago, I wrote her that, hey, listen, I'm in misery over this. I can't keep waiting on you to call me or to respond to me. So I'm just going to assume that you're not, and try to be okay with that. My door is always open, and you'll do great things. I know you will, and then I love you. I had to have some kind of closure of that because every day, all day, I check my phone and I check to see if I got an email or a text or if I missed a call. And I was good for like 2 days, and then she calls me at 10 o'clock. I missed a call because we stayed up late, and I call her like at 12, and I'm right back to the whole day waiting for her to call me, and she never does. And so I'm like, I'm pissed off again. I'm sad. I'm hurt. I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I want to call her up and, ask her what the hell. That's not really the word I used, but if anybody knows me, they know exactly what word I used. And it's hard because it real boils down to two things. She's my child, and out of my two children, she's the most like me. And I know that I had the capability of walking away from family and locking them away and never talking to them again. I did that with my mother. She never saw my children before she passed away. She passed away early in her life.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that because of my own brain cells and my own way of thinking, that's like the only solution that I can come up with to survive this, is to lock her out.
So Michael, have you looked at the pain that you went through, even though you were probably dissociated from it, by locking your mother out of your life and keeping your children away from her?
Yeah, I've gone through that. I've gone through that part and realized that I wish she was around, that I could talk to her. Maybe if I had these skills, I might have been something different. But I think with Megan, it's hard for me because I reach out to my father, who I didn't know until I was like 17. I met him with a sign in an airport, and he's the same way. I hear from him, and then I call him and call. I don't hear from him for 6 months. And Megan was, you don't have favorites, but Megan was most like me. I love my oldest daughter Danielle, and I went through a really hard time establishing a relationship with her. It took me years to do. And but Megan was a lot like me. We thought a lot alike. We shared a lot of time together. When her mother and I separated, she was the only one who, stood by my side for, at some point. And I can't believe, I was telling myself the lies that she doesn't love me and that she doesn't want me to be part of her life. I think that one of the last things I told her was just an advice that I had learned through my life is, regrets will be here long after I'm gone, and you don't want to carry them if you want to make a decision, that's fine. I support you in the decision, but make sure it's not done out of fear or hostility, because those decisions tend to bite you in the ass later on. And I'm getting mad at the worksheets. I'm getting mad at the fact that I got to do 5 or 6 worksheets a day on the same subject. And I've approached it from Megan. I've approached it from me. I've approached it from different emotional aspects, whether it be self-worth or whether it be anger or hurt or pain or abandonment. I mean, last night when Margaret and I did the worksheets, we did the long form, the 11-step form, and it was really like 3 or 4 worksheets on each one. And I was getting aggravated towards the end of it.
Yeah.
So I got to cancel the
remember that. Yeah, remember that the healing process is going to look just like the disease process looked. How do you suppose your dad, and think about the genetic components, how do you suppose your dad felt when he was separated from his son? How do you suppose your mom felt as a mother who cherishes her son and then is lost in her own world of pain and becomes overtly, insanely abusive of her son? How much pain, how much aggravation do you suppose there was there? And also another aspect to address is that there is still plenty of blame in your mind against their mother. You just needed to listen. If you want to re-listen to the show and just listen to your regulatory speech around, well, I can't blame them because now she's, but notice how many times the word blame was hooked to their mother. That's another major piece of the puzzle.
There is definitely some blame there. And now, intellectually, I understand why she does what she does, and I try not to be triggered by it on the outside. overtly triggered, I guess you could say. But I know, I understand, because you know me, I get pretty naked with my own stuff. I realize that I'm covertly triggered by her.
Right.
But I know I have no control over that, and so I don't let it. Only thing I've been able to do is not to let it overtly trigger me, and I haven't got the skills up yet to let it stop the hidden triggers. They're still there.
Well, when you look at, you're taking on. This isn't just your life that you're dealing with here. You're taking on the major pattern of your whole family system, but let's put it in a different context.
I don't have to do it. But,
that's
one of the things that came up last night was that, I'm always reaching out to my father, and I'm always reaching out to my children, and the old me started to come up. That if people who know me know I have a problem with hostility and anger. My old me started, I'm tired of dropping my drawers and being vulnerable. I'm tired of the one that's reaching out over the gap. I'm starting to get angry over that, and that's what's triggering the fear.
So how about if you resolved yourself to say, I'm a human being, and what human beings do is extend love, and I'm going to extend love to my father, to my mother, to my former, to my children, whatever they do. And I'm going to keep extending and extending and extending. Let's put it in a different context. One night when you were here at the intensive, you watched the video on the Hatfields and McCoys.
Right.
Remember that, it was right at the end of the movie where they said that 60 members of the family came together, of the two families, and signed a peace treaty.
Like in 2003 or something like that. Yeah, that was amazing.
Right. So 100 years later, 100 and some years later, 60 members of the families come together and sign a peace treaty. However, they haven't started the healing process. Now, just think in terms of what you saw in that film and the insanity that these people did to themselves and to each other. Think about the scene where, Kevin Costner's sitting there with his gun getting ready to kill his son because he thinks his son is a traitor. Think of what if the Hatfields and McCoys that signed that peace treaty went to the next level and said, okay, we're now going to take responsibility and clean out all that happened within each of our respective families that led to this insanity, and within the two families, we're actually going to create a dual family reunion. We're going to come together in a 9-day intensive, and we're going to process together everything that, look at what these people did to each other. And I'm sure that in that movie, we just got to see a scratch of it.
Yeah, it was if anybody wants to see the disassociated aspects of how it can destroy one, that had lessons all through it. It was. So here's my take.
When you share with me, Michael, how your mom treated you as a kid and what your dad did, and then some of the things that you've done, the Hatfields and McCoys, they got nothing on you.
But Michael, I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. I'm wearing out.
You're strong enough.
I keep marching.
Hey, come on.
I'm doing
you're strong enough to be Mr. Warrior guy, but you're not strong enough to face what you're carrying around inside of you. Get off of it. Come on. Yeah, it's going to take time. Remember, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be strength to strength, piece by piece by piece. You came into a lifetime where you're ready to achieve mastery. Mastery doesn't come, if you look at, I don't care who it is, Tiger Woods. I know where he is today. He's achieving mastery over a golf ball.
Yeah.
You know what you came to do, and you know what you came to achieve mastery over, and here you are doing it. And are there going to be moments where, just like in your family system, when it wasn't all perfect and it wasn't all in place and it wasn't all done, there's rage and there's grief and there's pain? Yep. And that'll be your next piece of work. And just, be patient with yourself. you don't have to go through it all today. It doesn't all have to be done today. You don't have to be a master today. But you're building the strength. You go back to the ancient scripture. It said, strength to strength, here a little, there a little.
Now, last night, Margaret we were trying to, you make loving goals, and I was kind of like three different thoughts, and I thought they were like really good goals, and the way we do it together when she helps me is I have to say it out loud, and she was asking me to cancel a goal of I want a loving, respectful relationship, father-adult-daughter relationship with Megan. And then she asked me if I'm willing to cancel that goal, and I couldn't. I mean, it took us like 30 minutes for me to get around to canceling it because I felt like I was lying to myself.
Yeah, I understand. And you are lying to carbon-based memory because carbon-based memory's got so much rage and pain and loss over relationship with parents and children that you may be doing, when they said to Yeshua, how many worksheets? 77 times 70. In your 77 times 69th worksheet, you'll probably still feel like you're lying to yourself because there's so much trauma in this carbon-based memory system to be cleaned out. And then your 77 times 70th worksheet, crack, it'll break, and it'll be gone. Just like, go back to several of the layers that you've been through since you started doing this work a year and a half or so ago. And the things that seemed impossible to change. And notice how much they've changed. And you're not going to take something that's taken. I mean, when you think about the treatment you got from your mother, what do you suppose? I mean, you can only imagine what went on between your father and your mother and why he's in such trauma about contacting you. And how many, in order for that to happen, how many generations of Hatfield and McCoy kind of stuff had to go on to get that crazy? You're not going to get done with that in 1, 10, 100, or 1,000 worksheets. So I'd invite you to choose to stay conscious, be patient with yourself, and recognize, okay, I'm not done with this. And you know what? I might still be doing this issue 20 years from now. But if I'm doing this issue 20 years from now, I've changed my whole family dynamic in one generation. We had lunch. We were up in St. Louis. We were up last week in St. Louis with my daughter and our granddaughter. It was such a fun, awesome week. Beautiful. It was great. Yeah. But we got together with a woman while we were there who had been to Heartland about 15, She was at Heartland when her son was 6. Her son is now 15, so it's 11 years ago. This is a woman who was repeatedly sexually molested as a child. Her mother, without getting into detail, as outrageous as you can imagine a woman being with a child, and as abusive as you can imagine a woman being.
I got a pretty good imagination.
Just goes on, the whole list. So her son, she came with her son when he was 6 and started doing this work with him. Instead of putting him into the traditional school system, she homeschooled him against all odds and against all people, against her and how crazy she was, et cetera, et cetera. We got together and had lunch with them. And this young man is 15 years of age. I mean, in one generation, this woman has changed so much that her son knows virtually nothing of that world of trauma. His father passed away about 2 years ago, and he went through that. But aside from that, I mean, what this woman has done in just 11 short years, 9 years, has been monumental. And she's, we just kind of jokingly, she was sharing how the first workshop that she came to, she came out of a world of, religion or anything to do with the man that they called Jesus. It's got to be crazy stuff. And she shared that she had no idea that there was a real teaching behind it that gave tools and that worked. And she shared that the first night she came to the intensive, and I mentioned Jesus or Yeshua, and she said, I just about ran out of the room and got in my car and drove away. She said, the only reason I stayed is a very dear friend who was going through some extremely depressed and severe times in her life had come to Heartland and just cleaned up her life. She said, the only reason I stayed, the first time you used that word, was because she shared that's what changed her life and that it works. And we were able to have a conversation. Say again?
Yeah, right. Sounds like me. I called you a snake oil salesman when you started quoting Bible.
Exactly. And so, but she had so much trauma around that, and now it's like that dude is one of her best friends because it just works. He knew how to work it, and it works, and you use it, and you change the whole game. And there's nothing else around. There's nothing else. You know, the couple of days after we did the show, finished the intensive off, Dr. Tim was on the show, and he shared with us, as a psychologist, 35 years of training, the evaluation that we use, that people in the psychological profession don't even imagine or think that those evaluation numbers can change. They're permanent. They look at it as a permanent state. And you saw your numbers. You saw the numbers of people going from, down in the teens up into the 90s. And then with psychology professors, it's believed that that's not changeable. It's permanent, fixed. There's nothing you can do about it. And we see those changes happen all the time. It just works, and that's the beauty of it. However, it doesn't work overnight. It's a program. It takes time. It takes process.
So I'm not lying to myself then. That's the biggest thing, because you know me. I'm not going to do something that I don't think is... And that's what I felt like. I felt as if I've been lying to myself when I'm doing the worksheets.
Yeah. And
because I'm doing goals that I want.
So my take would be knowing you that in your being there's the integrity of I'm going to do this work. In your carbon-based memory, it's impossible. So as being steps in and brings the next layer of carbon-based memory up, it's going to feel like a lie. Carbon-based memory is going to keep trying to suck you back into, you're a fraud, you're a lie. I know I deal with that too, with the way that I teach and traveling the way that I do. My own carbon-based memory comes up sometimes. It's, this is phony. You're a phony. You don't mean that. It's like, okay, carbon-based memory, I got that we have a reality in there that this can't be true about me. And in my being and in my integrity, this is what I choose. So I'll just threaten you with a fast and tell you to shut up. We're going to clean you out of there and get you done. And it doesn't end overnight.
No. Okay. I'll keep plugging.
Yeah, it's a process. And be gentle with yourself. And be gentle with her.
It's kind of hard. I know. I'm hard on myself.
My daughter went through some difficult times. She was in a relationship with someone who committed suicide. And on her birthday, blaming her because she would not accept his proposal for marriage. And one of and that created a lot of strain and separation in our relationship. It was difficult for me to have any communication with her. I had a friend who had been doing this work for several years, was a student of mine, but in that situation became my teacher. And she shared that to really trust her wisdom. And the big turning point in my relationship with my daughter was when I said, something, sweetie? I don't agree with the path you're on and what you're doing, but I trust that you know what you need to do, and your wisdom will take you through what you need to go through. And so just know that I cherish you, and I trust you to go through what you need to go through. And I'm always here to support.
So we got to say that 77 times 72, because I swear I keep doing that.
Yeah, it's big, and again, when you look at how many generations of that kind of separation have taken place, imagine the 60 descendants of the Hatfields and McCoys are doing worksheets together around all of that. How many do you suppose you're going to have to do?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
It's not going to be an overnight process.
No,
So know that we're here holding the space, and the layers and the levels will clear, and they don't clear overnight.
So when I'm doing the worksheets and I think I'm lying, I tell myself that that's my carbon-based memory portion of me, and that my being is the one that's trying to get through it. And so I'm not really lying to myself.
Exactly. In my being, I have integrity with this, and my mind holds 1,000 other insane ideas. And it wants, remember the David and Goliath thing, it wants to suck David. Goliath wants to suck David in and control and run the show. Look,
so I wanted to call her up. I wanted to call her last night at midnight and tell her, what the hell you think you're doing? But yeah, all that craziness came back. But for a split second, I thought, you know what? Their mother does this stuff to them, and they respond. Maybe I should try to do this stuff. Maybe I'll get the response I need. And I was like, oh, I'm ass.
Yeah, and maybe you could manipulate them into deeper trauma and screw it up worse.
Yeah,
and maybe get what you want, but getting what you want
won't
produce. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me upset that when that crazy stuff comes up. I think I'm past it, and then, crazy, selfish, non-being thought patterns pop in my head, and I get frustrated.
Yeah. Next layer of frustration, out for clearing.
Yeah. And my knees are horrible.
Yeah.
I can barely walk.
And notice that, and you might want to cancel your need for your needs to be met.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all up in my face and all in my knees. I can't even move.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think it is, the healing crisis. So I'd call and get some advice.
Yeah, well, you've got our support 1,000%, and we hold the space for this layer to come up out of carbon-based memory and process out. And each layer that comes, to have the courage that it takes to walk through it and come out the other side. And be careful of the lies that carbon-based memory will try to teach you or tell you.
Yeah, because they've been there so long, they're believable.
Yes. Yep.
It's very seductive to slide back into that. I see it, especially when the emotion's up and it's all in your, what do you say, heat is up and chips it down.
Right.
And it's all in my face. That's when it's the easiest to get seduced back into the dark side of the force.
That's what it takes.
All right, thanks, brother.
Hey, we appreciate you, and we're delighted that you're doing your work, and we're delighted to be here to support you and hold the space.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Look forward to the next time we get face-to-face.
Absolutely. Enjoy the
Love you, Michael.
I love you, honey.
All right, we have 3 more callers. I'm not sure we're going to have time to get to all of them, but the first one is area code 541.
Hi, it's Julie. I'll try to be quick.
Hey, Julie.
From the very beginning of the show with Julio, right at the end, you reminded him, you reminded Margaret at the end, and I know that the same is true for Michael, that we're all such a great family and willing to be there and hold the space of love for anything that we're going through. And this is a place where we can share anything, and that has really made such a big difference in my life because I wasn't heard too well as a child, and and so I'm sorting a lot of things out, and it's very valuable to have this group of people available. And we could call any of us individuals and be there for each other. So I'm just reminding Michael of that. There's some things I want to share with him, and I'll be calling him too. But I want to share real quick 2 things. He mentioning about this difficulty with his daughter was reminding me of my difficulty with my father, and I had made a commitment to read the commitment to you, to him, to my father, and I still have not done that. And I was just thinking Michael might consider reading those words to his daughter, So that's just that. I have been another thing I heard Michael say, in case I don't get to call him right away and he's still listening, is he said that he's just getting so tired of doing these worksheets on the same thing, five on the same thing, 5 every day. And Michael Ryce, I'm not sure, but you don't really have to do them that way, right? You can do the worksheets on each one can be on something different. You don't have to keep drilling away at the same one thing, because wouldn't that be like forcing it instead of letting things percolate naturally and letting Rupa do the work?
Well, the idea of the worksheet process is you work on what's current, what's up in your face at the moment. So you might do, 50 worksheets in a row on a particular issue, and then you might not touch that issue again for a week, and all of a sudden there's another 10 worksheets to do on it. So it's whatever's up in your face at the moment.
Okay, right. Okay, so with regard to that, I've gotten behind for 2 or 3 days, and so there will be times when I have 10 or 15 worksheets to do, and I'm finding great value in doing more than 5 at times because I do go a little further in depth. And the other thing is sometimes when I feel overloaded with 15 to do, I sort of rush. Not really. I don't do them frivolously, but I just let what comes come, not worry about if I'm deep enough or if I can really let go of that goal or not. I basically read the paragraph that describes about the corrupt data in number 6, I think it is, and then I write the goal again, knowing that I can recreate a different goal, a better goal, a similar goal that isn't attached to all this carbon-based memory. So, there's freedom in that, and sometimes I push myself to move faster through the worksheets. So that's one point. And then this last thing is I had a dream of my mother recently, and I haven't dreamed about her for a long time. She died about 19 years ago. And it was weird. It was different. I've been kind of wondering if she's been paralleling me a little bit in this growth work. And she came over in the dream and hugged me, and I was kind of surprised that it didn't feel like the same connection we had had before. It just was different. And now I'm looking back about 5 days later, realizing that there was a different awareness in her because my awareness is changing. And so as I've been doing these worksheets about both my parents, whichever one at the time, and the divorce and the split that it imprinted into me, that I am healing and we are healing, I've really become able
down to about 20 seconds.
Okay, be compassionate for my mother and her pain and what she lived through and went through, and she's becoming more aware too. And so I would offer that to Michael, that things can still shift with his mother, and that's it.
Definitely a process. Yeah. Cool. All right. We appreciate you and have a blessed one. Maybe if there's more to say, we can talk about it tomorrow. In the meantime, we just invite everybody to bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Check our website out for the forgiveness tool. Bring a stranger. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.